You can forge weapons and armor at the workshop. Each weapon type has 4 different stats, which are the kinds of damage that it deals: sharp, heavy, force, and tech. Similarly, each armor type has 4 different stats, which are the kinds of damage that it blocks: strike, slash, thrust, and magic. Each primary material has a value for all 8 of those stats. When you forge a weapon or armor, you will pick one weapon or armor type and one primary material. For armors, the defense is calculated using this formula. Defense equals the floor of A times M divided by 64. A is the value from the armor type chart. M is the value from the materials chart. Each of the 4 defense stats are calculated separately. For weapons, the power is calculated using this formula. The W variables are from the weapon type chart. The M variables are from the materials chart. There is one pair of variables for each stat, and they all combine to create one power value for the weapon. Due to the way these formulas work, it is beneficial to choose a weapon or armor type and a primary material that both have high values in the same stats. A character can equip one weapon and 3 pieces of armor. This chart shows which armor and weapon types can and cannot be equipped simultaneously. Now you know how to forge weapons and armor and what the power and defense values will be. Next, let's talk about tempering, which is the addition of items called secondary materials into a pre-existing weapon or armor. A tempering recipe consists of a starting weapon or armor followed by an ordered list of items to add. This chart shows the effect that each item will have. You can temper as many items into something as you like, but it can only be done one at a time. It does not make any difference if you stop and leave the forge for any amount of time after starting. As long as you pick up where you left off, you will get the same results. The only thing that matters is the order in which the items are added. Also, nothing that you do outside the forge will have any effect on your weapons or armor, and there is no randomness in tempering. When you temper an item, it could change the statistics of the weapon or armor. Also, it may or may not add a mystic card. The next 3 charts show the necessary requirements to get each mystic card to show up. It also shows the effects that each mystic card provides. Each weapon or armor can hold 4 mystic cards at a time. When a new card is added, it starts in the first slot and it pushes the other cards down 1 slot. If there is a card in the 4th slot, it will be removed from the weapon or armor at this time. Here's an important note. The first slot is completely invisible. Cards in the first slot have no effect on the weapon or armor, and there is no visual indication when a card enters the first slot. The visual indicator happens when a card enters the second slot. Also, if it so happens that the card that is leaving is the same as the card that is entering, then the animated graphics will not be displayed at all, but everything else still works as expected. There are a few mystic cards that have strange behavior which is worth mentioning. The family of world cards has a special condition. If there is already one world card on the weapon or armor, then a second world card cannot appear. This is true even if the existing world card would exit the weapon or armor on the same step. If you try to temper something that would add a world card, it still pushes the existing cards down 1 slot, but no new card is added. Also, if a world card is in the first slot and then you temper any item that does not produce a mystic card, then the world card will exit from the first slot. Both of these special conditions, however, go away as long as the Bed of Thorns card is in any of the visible slots. However, even if you have multiple world cards at the same time, only the oldest one will have any effect. The family of pixie cards have a special condition. Once these cards are added, they will never exit the weapon or armor under normal circumstances. Once a pixie card is pushed to the 4th slot, other cards will jump over it rather than pushing the pixie out. The pixie can be pushed out from the 4th slot by the addition of Garlic Crown or Holy Water. It can also be removed using the Ragnarok card, which transforms the pixie into one of the 7 evil god cards. Dawn Nymph will exit from any visible slot if any item that has 24 energy or less is added. However, only one of them will exit for each tempering, so if Dawn Nymph would be pushed out from the 4th slot naturally, then no additional dawn nymph will exit. This is why many recipes use patterns consisting of 4 glow crystals in a row. Now you have a good understanding of how mystic cards work. Next, let's talk about raising elemental essence levels. This is useful because many mystic cards require certain essence levels before they can appear. Also, essence levels increase the power of weapons. However, it does not increase the defensive armor. Here's the more complete formula for weapon power. E is equal to the sum of all essence levels, and G is equal to the growth control factor, which depends on the primary material. Before you start raising essence levels, it's important to note the elemental resistances of the primary material. This chart shows that, in addition to the growth control factor, which is in the last column, raising essence levels requires 2 things: energy and elemental taint points. All secondary materials add energy when tempered. If an elemental taint point is present, then any energy will be applied towards raising the corresponding essence level. Here is a table showing the energy requirements to reach each level. Note that it depends on the elemental resistances of the primary material. It is important to know that to increase an essence level, all necessary energy must be tempered in a single step. You cannot accumulate the energy across multiple different items. If you don't have enough energy to raise the level, then the energy is wasted and it disappears. To this end, 2 very useful mystic cards are Sorcerer and Witch, collectively known as the Wizard cards. They decrease the elemental resistances of the primary material, so less energy is required to reach higher levels. Elemental taint points can be added in 2 ways. First, a mystic card for a particular element will provide a taint point for that element for as long as the card remains visible. Second, certain items provide temporary taint points which last only for the step in which they are added. All the items that create elemental mystic cards will also provide the taint point on the step in which they are added, but the reverse is not true. If there are multiple taint points at the same time, then any energy added will go towards raising the essence with the highest level. If there's energy left over, or if there wasn't enough energy to raise the highest essence, then the remaining energy will be applied towards one of the other available essences. If there are multiple taint points of the same essence, then that essence could rise once for each taint point. For some reason, Wisp and Shade will not be affected by Sorcerer and Witch cards, unless the Sorcerer or Witch cards are added before the Wisp or Shade. Raising essences can cause conflicts between the elements. If Wisp is greater than or equal to 1, then a Shade will never increase. If Wisp is greater than Shade, then a Shade will immediately drain down to 0. Also, if Wisp is greater than Shade, then Dryad will drain Aura. If Shade is greater than Wisp, then Aura will drain Dryad. Salamander drains Gnome, Gnome drains Djinn, Djinn drains Undyne, and Undyne drains Salamander. All of these conflicts will occur in the reverse order while the Mirrored World card is visible. None of these conflicts will occur at all while the Ancient Moon card is visible. What does it mean to have one element drain another? If the dominant element is greater than or equal to 1, then the subordinate element cannot increase. If the dominant element has a taint point, then with each tempering step, the subordinate element will decrease. This decrease causes energy to be added to the item. The amount of energy gained is equal to whatever it would take to undo the decrease. For example, if an essence drains from 5 to 4, you gain energy equal to whatever it would take for that essence to go from 4 up to 5. Note that the amount that you gain is not decreased by the presence of Sorcerer or Witch cards. Here are some other complexities. Wood primary materials will generate a Dryad Mystic card whenever any item is added, unless that item produces its own Mystic card. Also, a Dryad will always have an active taint point even if there is no Dryad card. Aerolite primary materials will cause Salamander to constantly drain. If you temper an item that would create a Mystic card, but that tempering causes a drain, which would mean that you no longer meet the essence level requirements for the Mystic card, then the card will not appear. Even if the drain ultimately feeds back into the same essence, so that that essence doesn't actually change at all. Now you know how to raise essence levels. Next, let's talk about the other benefits of tempering. For weapons, if an essence level is at or above a certain threshold, then it will have the associated essence marker. This causes the weapon to deal some bonus damage to enemies that are weak to that element. Consult the in-game encyclopedias to see the enemy weaknesses. Weapons can gain different master moves. The moves are gained as soon as the associated mystic card becomes visible, and they will persist indefinitely unless they're replaced by another master move of the same type. All master moves can be viewed on the mystic card list. Note that in the original release of the game, these were called plunge attacks, which is how they are called on this chart. For armors, if an essence level is at or above a certain threshold, then it will have the associated elemental defense marker. This defense causes you to take about half damage from attacks of that element. Having multiple armors with the same marker does not improve the effect. Armors can also provide immunities against status abnormalities. These are provided by various items or mystic cards, and they may be applicable for all armors or only certain types of armor, as indicated in the tempering chart. Among these, the ones that are items that give immunities to all armors, such as Stinky Breath, will override and delete any immunities that other items or mystic cards had previously provided. However, mystic cards and items that give immunities to only specific armor types, such as Blackened Bat, can be added afterwards, and they will not delete previous immunities. Note that immunities that are provided by mystic cards can never be deleted as long as the mystic card is still visible. Armors can also gain special properties from certain mystic cards. Each piece of armor can only have one special property at a time. Once gained, this property will persist indefinitely unless it is replaced by adding a different special property. Here are the special properties. Now let's talk about how to get attribute bonuses. Many items will modify attributes when added. There are a few different systems at work here. First, there is the attribute growth range, which sets how high or low the attributes can go. By default, the attributes can range between 0 and +1. Some mystic cards provide a new range when they're visible, and in this case, the widest range will be used. Some items will modify attributes by allowing them to grow or shrink within the bounds of the growth range. Some mystic cards have an effect where the addition of any future items will cause attributes to grow or shrink within the range. If you have multiple of these effects at the same time, then they will be applied one at a time as additional items are added. Since the attributes cannot leave the growth range during this iterative process, it means that the ordering of the application of the growth or shrink items could make a difference. Some items can modify attributes with stackable bonuses, which can exceed the growth range, or they can set attributes to certain values immediately. However, if any other items are added afterwards, then the attributes will revert to stay within the growth range. Some mystic cards will also set attributes to certain values, and these will stay as long as the mystic card is visible. Now let's talk about the last concept, which is varnishing. A few mystic cards and items provide stacking multipliers to a weapon's power or armor's defenses. The mystic cards provide the bonus only while they're visible, and the items provide the bonus only if they were the last item added. Here's the chart of the relevant items. For armors, all of the bonuses will be applied on the relevant stats first. Then, after all the bonuses have been applied, then any fractions will be dropped off. On any given piece of armor, the number of each defense stat is capped at 99, except magic, which caps at 95. Overall, all of your character's defense numbers cap at 99. For weapons, it's more complicated. The bonuses are applied to the stats of the weapon's primary material. After each bonus is applied, any fractions are dropped off before the next bonus is applied. Also, the stats will max out at a value of 255 at this stage. After all the bonuses are applied to the primary material stats, then it is combined with the stats of the weapon type using the weapon power formula. The number for the weapon power caps at 999. Now that should be all the necessary foundational information about tempering. Next, we'll walk through some sample recipes. At this point, if you have any questions, please feel free to send me a message on YouTube or find one of my live streams on twitch.tv/Majarra. I recommend using this online simulator to follow along. The URL is at the top of the screen. The simulator should be an exact copy of the way it works in the game, but you can also follow along in the game. Set up the simulator to create a Laurent silver shoes. You can see the recipe displayed on the right side of the screen. I've also included a few other charts for reference. Now I'll explain the effects of each item. The first item to add is Stinky Breath. When tempered into any armor, it provides immunity against poison and confusion. However, since it applies to any armor, it will override pre-existing immunities, so it should be added first. It also creates a pixie card, which we'll have to remove later. Next, Windstone provides Djinn Taint and 24 energy, which is enough to raise Djinn to level 1. It also creates a Djinn card, which will continue to provide Djinn Taint while visible. Mercury creates a Witch card, pushing the Djinn card into the second slot. It also provides 24 energy, which causes Djinn to rise to level 2. Big Siege creates a Dryad card, pushing the Witch card into the second slot. Since the Witch is now active, it reduces Djinn's resistance to 3, so now Djinn only needs 12 energy to go from level 2 to level 3. Big Seed also provides Dryad Taint and 24 energy. 12 energy is spent raising Djinn to level 3, and there's enough energy left over to raise Dryad to level 1. Gold Clover provides 64 energy, and since Djinn is the only element with a taint point right now, the energy goes to Djinn. 24 energy is needed to raise to level 4, so Djinn raises to level 4. The second Gold Clover has the same effect. 48 energy is needed to reach level 5, so Djinn rises to level 5. It's not possible to go any higher using Gold Clovers in this configuration because 96 energy would be needed to reach level 6, and all the energy must be added at the same time. Holy Water is added now because it is necessary to push the Pixie card out of the 4th slot. Holy Water creates the Cleric card, which pushes the Dryad into the 2nd position. Holy Water also provides 16 energy, so Dryad is able to rise to level 2. Sulfur creates a Sorcerer card, which will be used later to decrease Dryad's resistance. Diceberry creates the Wind God card, because Djinn is greater than or equal to 3 and the total essences are greater than or equal to 5. It pushes the Sorcerer card into the 2nd slot. Now Dryad's resistance is reduced to 3. We still have a Dryad card providing the taint point, and it would take 12 energy to raise Dryad to level 3. Diceberry provides 16 energy, so Dryad rises. Flaming Quill has the same effect as Gold Clover in this. Needle creates the Bed of Thorns card because Dryad is greater than or equal to 1 and Salamander is equal to 0. This pushes the Wind God card into the 2nd slot, making it active, so it provides its ability, which is Paralyze Immunity. It also provides plus 10 to Dexterity, but that doesn't matter because we'll modify the stats later. Spiny Seed creates the Yggdrasil card because we meet the essence requirements. It also pushes the Bed of Thorns into the 2nd slot, making it active. This allows us to have multiple world cards at the same time. It also increases the armor's defenses and makes it so that we cannot regenerate health in combat. Clearfeather creates the Lord of Flies card, pushing Yggdrasil into an active position. Now that Yggdrasil is active, the addition of any items will cause all stats to grow within the largest available growth range, which is plus 10 and happens to be provided by the Yggdrasil itself. The second Spiny Seed creates another Yggdrasil card. Having 2 world cards is only possible under the effects of Bed of Thorns. This also pushes the Lord of Flies into an active position, giving us a new stat growth range of up to plus 20. However, Lord of Flies sets our dexterity to 15, and it makes it so that the addition of items decreases all other stats, which counteracts the Yggdrasil. Wind God also exits the item during this step, but the Paralyze immunity stays. Loquat Shoes creates a fairy, pushing the 2nd Yggdrasil into an active position. Bed of Thorns exits and is no longer needed since we already achieved the 2 Yggdrasil cards. Now, if any item is added, the first Yggdrasil makes all stats go up. Then the Lord of Flies makes all the stats go down, but then the second Yggdrasil makes all stats go up. So we can proceed to add items to raise stats all the way up to the plus 20 cap set by Lord of Flies. 10 pieces of meat are added to raise stats. Any meat can be used. In fact, any item can be used as long as it does not mess up the Mystic card configuration. Holy Water is added to create a Cleric card and push the Fairy card into the active position. The Fairy provides a special ability on shoes, which grants extra EXP drops in battle, and more importantly, this overrides the previous special ability from Bed of Thorns, which prevented health regeneration during battle. One Yggdrasil card exits, but its ability is no longer needed. We can keep the plus 20 to all stats as long as we still have the Lord of Flies active. Now, for the last example, we're going to set up the simulator to create an altena felt spear. You can see the recipe displayed on the right side of the screen. Now we'll explain the effect of each item. Round Seed provides a Dryad Taint point and 16 energy, so Dryad rises to level 1. It also puts a Dryad card in the first slot. Sulfur puts a Sorcerer card in the first slot, pushing the Dryad card to the second slot, which provides a Dryad Taint point. Sulfur also provides 24 energy, so Dryad rises to level 2. Sulfur puts another Sorcerer in the first slot, pushing the other Sorcerer into the second slot, which lowers the Dryad resistance to 3. Sulfur's 24 energy raises Dryad to level 3. Glow Crystal puts a Dawn Nymph in the first slot, pushing the second Sorcerer into position, lowering the Dryad resistance to 1. The Glow Crystal's 96 energy raises Dryad to level 4. Meat provides 16 energy to raise Dryad to level 5. Each Gold Clover provides 64 energy, which raises Dryad to level 6 and then 7. Since the Mystic cards are not being changed during this process, it is usually referred to as cardless tempering. 128 energy is required to reach level 8, which can only be achieved by an exiting Dawn Nymph. We also need to have 2 Sorcerer cards to keep the Dryad resistance at 1, and some source of Dryad Taint. Since the addition of Sulfur would cause Dawn Nymph to exit, first we have to overload the item with 4 Dawn Nymph before adding the other items. We already have 1 Dawn Nymph from previous Glow Crystal, so at this step we'll add 3 more Glow Crystals, then 2 Sulfur, 1 Round Seed for the Taint point. At this time, when the Dawn Nymph exits, the 192 energy that it provides will raise Dryad to level 8. 256 energy is required to reach level 9, which can only be achieved by a Dawn Nymph exiting at the same time as 64 additional energy is added. This can be achieved right now by simply adding 1 more Glow Crystal. So you get 96 from the new crystal plus 192 from the exiting Dawn Nymph for a total of 288 energy, putting Dryad at level 9. This is the highest possible amount of energy without draining another essence, so level 9 is the highest you can go using this method. Now follow a similar process to raise Aura and Salamander to level 9. I have provided the recipe for these steps on the screen, so you might want to pause the video now. After that's completed, now I can show you the process known as drain tempering, where one essence is purposefully drained to release energy to raise other essences. First, add 1 Aura Silver followed by 2 Mercury. This will set up an Aura Taint point and lower the energy cost to raise Aura. With 2 active Witch cards, it'll take 1,536 energy to raise Aura to level 10. Next, add 1 Fishy Fruit. This will create a Mystic card to push the second Witch into position. Fishy Fruit also provides 32 energy and an Undyne Taint point. Undyne causes Salamander to drain from level 9 to level 8, and since Salamander has a base resistance of 10, it adds 2,560 energy to the 32 energy, for a total of 2,592. This is enough to raise Aura to level 10, and there is enough left over to also raise Undyne to level 1. Note that those are the only 2 elements with Taint points right now. The Undyne essence will block Salamander from being able to rise. To remove Undyne, add a Mirror Piece, then a Firestone. This will push Mirrored World card into position, which lets the Salamander Taint from the Firestone drain Undyne back to 0. Now simply raise Salamander back to level 9 using the same process as before, which is 4 Glow Crystal, 3 Sulfur, and 1 Sala Gold. Next, we will set up a few things for the next drain. Add 1 mush in a box, then 1 mirror piece, 2 sulfur, and 1 firestone. The mush in a box provides shade taint and enough energy to raise shade to level 1. Recall that if shade is greater than wisp, then aura drains dryad. However, the mirrored world reverses this, so now dryad will drain aura. The sulfurs reduce dryad resistance to 1 and salamander resistance to 3, so they require 512 and 1536 energy respectively to rise to level 10. The firestone also sets up the salamander taint point. Next, add 1 honey onion, which provides a mystic card to push the salamander into position. It also provides 32 energy and a dryad taint point. Dryad taint causes aura to drain from level 10 to level 9, and since aura has a base resistance of 9, an additional 4,608 energy is released, for a total energy of 4,640. This is enough to raise all elements with taint points, so dryad and salamander both rise to level 10. Note that the mirrored world exits on this step, but world cards still provide their effects on the step when they exit. Next, add 1 mercury to set up for the next drain, and then 1 garlic crown. Mercury's witch card makes it so aura needs 3072 energy to reach level 10. The garlic crown provides a card to push the witch into position, and garlic crown also adds 8 energy and an aura taint point. Since the mirrored world is gone, aura drains dryad since shade is greater than wisp. Dryad releases 3,584 energy for a total of 3,592, allowing aura to rise to level 10. Now we will set up to drain aura into dryad and salamander again using the same method as before. Add 1 mirror piece, 2 sulfur, 1 firestone, and 1 honey onion. This time, dryad still needs 512 energy, but salamander needs 3,072, but that's still covered by the aura drain. Thus, dryad rises to 10 and salamander rises to 11. To set up for the next drain, add 1 sun crystal, 1 mercury, and 2 aura silver. The sun crystal provides wisp taint and enough energy to raise wisp to 1. Since shade and wisp are equal, aura and dryad will no longer drain each other. The mercury makes it so that aura needs 3,072 energy to rise to level 10, and then it would need 6,144 energy to rise to level 11. The aura silvers provide 1 taint point each, so now aura can potentially rise twice in the same step. Next, add 1 fishy fruit. As before, its undying taint will drain salamander. Since salamander goes from level 11 to level 10, it releases 10,240 energy, in addition to the fishy fruit's 32 energy, which is more than enough to raise aura twice, so it goes all the way up to 11. From here, the process can be continued in a similar way. However, one complication is that shade cannot continue to rise now that wisp is greater than or equal to 1. You can use a chaos crystal to create an ancient moon card. This causes the essence conflicts to be ignored so that you can then add mush in a box to raise shade. But ancient moon also prevents draining. Also, since it is a world card, it cannot exist at the same time as the mirrored world. For that reason, the recipe pushes out the ancient moon using a salamander cards that are created from firestones before the next mirror piece is added. The full continuation of this recipe is linked in the description. Now you have all the information you need to understand and create your own tempering recipes. Please like and subscribe or follow me on Twitch for additional content. Thank you very much for watching this video and have a good day.